G'day, my name's Kyan, and in this video I want to talk about ambience. I want to showcase an ambient system that I made for this game called Anura, which is a game where you explore a sewer which is procedurally generated, and you have to escape some like manic toads that are like attacking you. So I'm just gonna jump straight. Into it. Here you go. I'll skip this. So essentially, yeah, at the beginning of the level gets randomly generated, and so because of the level being randomly generated, it made doing the ambiences like a little bit interesting, because what essentially I wanted to do is I wanted to have it so that when you walked into each of these different rooms, so this is like a separate prefab, that the room would like sound slightly different depending on like what's in the room. So like this room's got like lots of water, and like you hear like sounds like water drops, and you got like the drone in the background, and then like the sounds of the water. But then like this area here might be a bit less, and then you go here and then this will have like a different kind of sound to it. But most of the ones next to it, I've kept them similar to that so it doesn't sound too abrupt. If we go into here, you should be able to hear the wind. Oh no, it's a dead end! No! But yeah, that's pretty. I'll show more. The toads are pretty deadly. So what I can show is so yeah, this is one of the prefabs, which is this little hallway. So essentially on each of the prefabs, which I've just got like a little audio trigger, which has a script on it that I put together called parameter switcher, and there's a bunch of values for a bunch of different sounds which I can tune for every room, as well as reverb. So like this room here's got like 0.6 there, and then like this room here we can go and have a look at what the settings here. So then here I've done like kind of slightly different settings for this room, and like I can really show like how different it is. Like if I just chuck all these on. Yep. That's like that's a bit too much of like an increase there. Then come back here. See, the volume jumps a bit too much. But you kind of get the idea. Like essentially just so then now we go into this room, we'll change again. Now this room, and that music there's like a little hint, because there's like a key in this room that we can find, which I can get up here. And there's the key. But yeah, I think the system really, that this kind of setup really makes the level a bit more dynamic, makes the ambience sound a bit more dynamic. This is, I kind of got this idea from doing like mixing film. Like with film you kind of want when you mix different like kind of ambiences with different environments, you want kind of like a change, so that like people so that there's like an audible change between like environments, so you don't like hear this, you hear the kitchen ambience and then you go to the lounge room, then the lounge room doesn't sound like the kitchen, because like that's like what reality is like. If in your lounge room, there might be certain sounds that are like in your lounge room air conditioning. You walk to the kitchen, maybe that's a bit muffled. You know what I mean? You can now hear the birds outside. Like it's all stuff like that. I think just really adds up. So next, I'm just going to show the FMOD project. How this looks in the FMOD project. Man, there's water drops allowed. And then after that, I'll go to and show the script. This is the FMOD's project for the project. So essentially, I've got this event here, which is just an ambience, and I've got a bunch of different layers for each of the different sounds. The base layers are always on, so this like ambience layer, which I got off Soundly, and then I've got a multi-instrument with a bunch of different ambience layers that just kind of like randomly play. So it just adds a bit of variation to the bass loop. And then under that, I've got like stingers there, like sounds of clashing metal, and then some water drops, and then wind, and then running water. And then each of these ones, so like this stinger one has like a parameter attached to it here, which is called stingers, and then it just, when it's at 1, it brings it up in volume. And each of these parameters have seek speed on them, so they'll kind of fade up. So just say I want to bring in like the stingers now, I can just hit 1 and that'll fade up, and then we'll hear them there. Just maybe you want to bring in some water drops, we can bring that up on the scatterer. Bring in some wind. And some running water. Like all of these can be adjusted like different levels. So yeah, that's essentially the FMOD event. It's pretty simple. So here's the parameter switcher script, but before we get to this one, we need to talk about another script where this derives all its information from. So when you access a parameter with FMOD, there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can use like set parameter by name, or set parameter by ID, or set parameter by IDs. So set parameter by name, you just have to get the name and then you can set it. Whereas with ID, you have to get a bunch of different variables like event descriptions and stuff. So, and then IDs is essentially just the ID one, but you can get multiple and store them within like arrays. So it's a bit more efficient if you've got lots of parameters you want to change. So if we come over to the Ambience, essentially all I've done is I've made a static event instance for the ambient sound, the ambience event. And then to use the get parameter by IDs function, you need a bunch of variables. So the first one is the event description variable, which I've called ambience description. Then in this function here, I've got ambient description equals runtime manager.get event description. So essentially this just gets the information contained within this event, which is our ambience underground. And then from that, I'm getting the parameter description by name. So I'm just getting all the parameters that are in that FMOD event. And then I'm assigning them to the parameter descriptions array, which is 4. So you just assign them each to an index. And then I've got another variable here, which is I've made static, so I can access it in this script, and that's the parameter IDs, which is so essentially the parameter IDs will store information from the parameter descriptions ID, which will make sense in a sec. So essentially I use a for loop here, and I get the length of the parameter description, which will be 4, and then I get the parameter IDs array, and then I set the indexes of those, because we're going to iterate through, equal to the parameter descriptions index, so each one of them .id. So the ID information here is going to go into this variable here. And then yeah, just a little on destroy, so the sound stops. And that's essentially the base setup. And then here's the actual switcher that this will be instant. So this will go on every every trigger for every room. And it's just a simple on collider, check for the player. Then I'm going to use, so this is the actual function to change the parameter. So I'm using, because I've made that event there static, I can access it easily by just accessing the script and then doing dot and then the event. And then all it wants, all the function wants, is just the IDs, a value, some values, and a count. So this I'm just accessing from this script because I've made it static, so it's easier to grab. And then some values. So I've just made a array of floats here, which is set to 4, and then the count is just essentially how many parameters you want, how many parameters you have, and then seek speed, which is false. And then so what I've done here, you can see I've made like a private float for each of the parameters, and then I've set the index of each of the values array to those parameters and to those variables. And the reason why I did that is because with C#, if I did it this way, if this is public and I come back to Unity, then what will happen once it's public is that values variable will be like this. So that number 0, that's like running water or something. And then, but that doesn't say that it's running water. And as far as I found, there's no way to change this. So from me doing this, I'm essentially just setting all of those indexes of that values array to all of these public ones here, which will show up here. So whatever I set these to is what those values will be set to. So it's just like more convenient, and it's just easier to manage, and I don't have to constantly check back here to remember what something was at the right value. And if someone else looks at this in the inspector, they don't like get confused, they just immediately know like what's happening. And the same things with the reverb values. I've made some things for them as well. So yeah, that's the script. It's pretty simple. And if you have any questions about how it works, just let me know in the comments. But yeah, anyway, have a good one.